Welcome to another episode of The Drive presented by oddschecker. I am your host, Andy Lack, and I am joined, as always, by Jeffrey Fienberg. Jeff, we're back to individual stroke play. Hopefully some shot tracker, I would hope for after the debacle last week. The golf course that we're headed to leaves a little bit to be desired, but I know that I am ready to turn the page on the Zurich Classic and get back to a tournament that feels a little bit more predictive.
Yeah, also back in Texas, Andy. And while it hasn't been like the best season for myself, my wins have come both in Texas. So I pulled the Texas double last month in that mid-range, and sort of feels like there's a Texas mid-range winner coming again this week. So yeah, Texas. And then after this, we really get into it, right? Like Quail Hollow with an elevated event, then the major at Valhalla. So a bit of a letdown spot on the calendar. And I wasn't the best at math ever, but I feel like we're sort of right in the middle of the PGA Tour season. I tried to do a quick count of the full schedule. Felt like we're right around event like 18, 19, which is truly like right in the middle. So eyes are starting to get a little blurry. But again, the powerhouse events are coming up. So yeah, here we are back in Texas. Let's try to find one.
Yeah, and any week where we don't have to navigate a Scotty Scheffler debacle is a good one. This is, in my opinion, the weakest top of the board I've seen in a while in terms of the fear that it is inducing in me or lack thereof. Jordan Spieth is our favorite at 16-1. Can't give you one thing that he's done in the last couple of months that would be a reason for why Jordan Spieth should be 16-1 in any golf tournament, other than the fact that he is a Dallas resident and he does have a great track record of success in Texas. But Jordan Spieth, Jason Day, Siwoo Kim, Will Zalatoris, Adam Scott, Alex Noren, Minwoo Lee, Sung J M, those are the guys under 30-1 this week. And it's probably the easiest pass I've ever had in a golf tournament of the guys under 30. Not only do none of them scare me, I don't really think any of them are good bets at those numbers.
Piggyback on both things that you said there. I certainly wouldn't fear any of them. Like if you have a guy who's 150-1 and it's between him and one of these guys, you're like you have no fear, as opposed to some other top of boards or players who are priced be like, shoot, I think I'm really up against it here. You'd be happy to take one of these guys on, even for your first win. Under normal circumstances, I'd probably go Willie Z at 25. I don't mind Minwoo here at all at 30, but they're two very different players. Minwoo, I actually do trust to get to 20 under. All his professional wins have sort of flirted with huge birdie parties. But Will Zalatoris, I absolutely wouldn't trust to get to this winning score. Siwoo, obviously sort of trying to be guarded by the books this year. I mean, at the 22-1 high water mark using the grid. But I have no interest in it. It's an easy pass. I've got two bets in, and they both so far, and they're both 50-1 and above. So just to give you an indication where my early thoughts were, hard pass here. Although in that next tier, Andy, that you're about to read off, that 30 to 50 tier, I mean, there are some captains for my wheel of losers that I love to spin sometimes in that tier. So could go anywhere, but the top of the board was not really in play for me at all this week.
Yeah, I actually like this golf course for Adam Scott and think he's going to have a good week. I just don't know how you justify betting Adam Scott at 25-1 in 2024. I would absolutely consider him at 40. But that next tier of guys in the 30s is where I get started. And you are apt to point out the wheel of losers because these players that I'm about to mention certainly qualify. Benny on, Keith Mitchell. You've mentioned a really expensive practice round that you witnessed from Ludwig Aubert at the Canadian Open. I had a bit of a similar experience when I watched Benny on at Augusta. I was like, is this guy like Why does Benny On hit the ball like 2012 Rory? Like, I know the stats back this up. Like, he's a top 5 in driving distance, but Benny On absolutely nukes it. And I was so impressed by this guy's game. I know another guy in LA that works with him that's like he's incredibly close. So I held off, I held off on him at the Heritage because I didn't like that golf course for him. But a golf course where Benny On can wail away with reckless abandon off the tee and hit a bunch of long irons. He's finished 14th here in the past. Like, I think it's soon. I think it is very soon with Benny On.
I'll put it this way. If it's soon, it's now, because it's this type of field.
Yeah.
Benny On, in my opinion, is not the type like we used to talk about Finau before he actually started to win events back in the day where he struggled, or even how I feel about Cam Young. I will take those guys on at 50, 60 to 1 against these super elite fields, but have no interest really betting them in the weak fields. Benan, I wouldn't trust to find his shadow when it came to winning something premier. I
Yeah.
mean, like, he is as close to the top on my I do not trust you list as anyone in golf. But I totally get why it makes sense this week. I would only fight back on it to say almost everyone in this tier, including the guys who are 50 to 1, probably have just as good of a chance to like win the tournament. Not play well.
Yeah.
Fully
Yeah.
expect Ben to play well. And it's something people say that to me a lot when I'm like, want to bet a guy. I'm like, yeah, but the guys at like 55, like they really have the exact same chance to win this sucker. But you sort of pointed it out, Andy. I believe what the kids say these days is full send. You just want to bet guys who are like full send off
Yeah.
the tee at this place. It's probably one of the events where driving to me means more than almost anywhere
Mhm.
on tour. So I totally agree with that. And Keith has been playing so great. You would argue we sort my partner in crime, Pat Mayo, made this point earlier today. Jason Day, like it almost, there's a few guys in this tier who feel like Day last year, who really
Mhm.
just were having really great, consistent seasons. And this was the event. They picked on this field and they won it. And there's a lot of guys in this tier who I think would check that box. Two of your bets, Benny and Keith Mitchell, being perfect examples of that. I'd argue Tom Hoagie could fit into that mix. I'm tempted to say, Steven Yager might be a better bet than all of them. He's already
Mhm.
won in Texas. He can full send it. I have a bit of a fear of Yager in a birdie fest, Andy, but when you
Mhm.
deep dive him, I know it's a different world, but on the Corn Ferry, the guy won a lot at those like crazy resort course numbers. So maybe
Mhm.
I shouldn't be as fearful that he couldn't hit this winning number. But yeah, there's a lot of options in this tier. You've been on Mitchell a bit. Tell me just why you're going back, and then we'll move up.
Yeah, I think his development into an elite middle to long iron player is going to be the missing piece for him. He's always been a great driver putter guy. And I think turning into this great long iron player as well, I think is going to be the key to unlocking that next gear for him. He's been close a lot of times this year. He's had a really good season. He obviously had a really disappointing Sunday at Valspar where he was the solo leader going into the final round. Yeah, there's some scar tissue there, but I like the fact that he hopefully learned from the experience and has at least been in the heat of the battle recently and hopefully learned some lessons for that. And I just think the name of the game this week is long irons and putting. And if you have distance too, that's certainly a luxury. And I love the way that Keith Mitchell is hitting his long irons, and I trust his putter. He's one of the better bent grass putters in this field. So those are my two guys at in the 30s, and then I jump all the way to 66.
I'm gonna come in front of you, Andy. When
Yeah,
I
hop
tell
in
you,
with
when
your
I
50.
say I feel like I'm in a pontoon boat and I'm swimming in wheel of loser infested waters, looking at this board, like that's what it feels like. Especially when like you had a great case, Benny and Keith Mitchell, course fit, perfect sense, makes perfect sense. Um, Yeah, maybe with Ben, you're sort of betting the golfer more than the number, but I've done that way too many times to tell anyone else they shouldn't. For me, before your next bet comes my first. I don't believe there's more than 5 people in this field hitting the ball as good or better than Adam Schenk right now. I
Yeah.
bet Adam Schenk at 55-1. He's coming in lovely form here. I don't care about form crush. I'm not a course history guy. You
Yeah.
know, I'd like to know that you can play in the wind and Aussies, and there's a track record of historically guys that do play well here. But form, I feel there's very few who've got it better right now than Schenk. I've bet Adam Schenk 55-1 using that odds checker grid. I believe that one is over at DraftKings. He's coming in as low as 35. So obviously use that grid for best price. But Adam Schenk is is the first one I've pulled so far.
Love that. I was circling the wagon on him pretty closely myself. I went in a different direction at 66 with our boy Mav McNeely, who is down to 55-1 now, which I'm okay with as well. Driver putter, he's starting to hit his irons better as well. He's played well at Bentgrass Birdie Fest in the past, like Rocket Mortgage, played well at wide open, driver heavy, long iron golf courses like Mexico before. I just think he's close, and I think 66-1 was a great number on a guy that has the type of putter that I absolutely trust to keep up in this type of event.
Yeah, I mean, I got my concern here might be his driver, but I don't mind it even at the 55-1. He's a guy I am looking at in this tier along with Seamus Power, whose numbers come down a bit today, now as high as
Yeah,
60-1.
that's a popular one.
You'd probably like a little bit more on Seamus. And I know the guys that have been betting Seamus the last little bit while he's been playing well, like they've been getting some insanely huge numbers. So, he's really gotten sliced, but I think he could find his way around here just lovely. The way Luke List continues to play, I think is I'm quite fond of. It's hard to take anything from the Zurich. It really is. You can make up whatever you want. We don't have some of the data, as you pointed out. I really do feel that List carried Norlander. I really do feel from everything
Yeah.
I saw, that's what it felt like. He can mash it out there. Hopefully, spike with the putter. I'll tell you my second bet though, Andy. It comes in just in front of 100-1. Ryan Fox. I've bet Ryan Fox at 90-1. We saw him get that life back in the Masters. We saw him and Higo, play well. They had a nice little finish there. Again, I'm not really taking much into that. Other than Ryan Fox, we saw it last year. He seems like a form player. When he doesn't have it, he doesn't have it. But when he has it, I like to see that he can ride it. And I believe he could be in it right now. And from a sheer talent standpoint, I believe he's as good as some of the guys in that half the number range when he's got it going. Kiwis, Australians, they love it here historically. I think he can fit right into that mix. So Ryan Fox in front of 100-1 is another bet that I've already locked in.
The only other guy I would mention in that zone, have you been attuned to this Quest love movement that seems to be developing here on a
Full send. It's
morning?
full send week. Ryan Fox is part of Team Full Send. So I don't mind. You want to build a card full of full send. A lot of the guys who I really trust, who I'll acknowledge could be smarter than me, they're in on Quest. I've seen it as high as 100, as
Yeah.
low as looking at the grid right now, as high as 100, as low as 66. Sorry, my eyes are burning at the moment. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I mean, if you at 100-1, I don't mind it. 90-1, I don't mind it. I could see why the profile works. Yeah, I watched them Monday qualify up in Canada last year. Yeah, a lot of the smart guys like it. I could be talked into it. Is that something you've played with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I talked about him more extensively on the Sunday pod that I did, but he finished 14th at this event last year. He absolutely destroys the ball off the tee. He's a great long iron player. He's coming off back-to-back top tens at the Valero Texas Open. Obviously, Texas golf course where you have to hit a bunch of long irons, pretty driver heavy, and then backs it up with another ninth at the Corrales, which is another driver heavy fairly long iron intensive golf course. He's played great at some bent grass birdie fests over the summer. Last year, he's also got a 17th at the John Deere Classic, 4th at the Rocket Mortgage. He's pretty much done it on all of the golf courses that I would want him to do it at, which is heavily, heavily encouraging. So Quest at 100 to 1. And then the final guy that I would mention is, I bet Justin Lauer at 110 to 1. He finished top 5 at both Corrales and Mexico this year. Other driver heavy, long iron, low miss fairway penalty, go out and make birdies, can get a win, a little bit windy, wins the primary defense there. And he's just the best. I have him as statistically like the best bent grass putter over the last 3 years.
Okay.
So I trust his ability, his long iron play to get to 25 under more so than nearly anyone else in this range. So Justin Lauer 100 plus, anything you can find there. I think he's still available at 100. I got him 110. That's a number I absolutely love this week on Justin Lauer.
Yeah, I'm seeing 100 there on Lauer. Just a couple long shots I could be circling around. You mentioned Mexico. How about both the full send guys from there? Jake Knapp 100 to 1, Sammy Valimaki seeing as high as 140 to 1. So those are two I don't mind. And Taylor Pendrith, you look at his results, Andy, he's either top 10 or missing the cut.
Yeah, I like Pendrith a lot.
So I don't mind. That's not a horrible outright bet here, but yeah, that's it. I could kind of go in a lot of direction, and it'll be probably made up of, my card will be made up of the names that I mentioned here, certainly.
Any other closing thoughts? Anyone else you want to mention? One name, who's your winner this week?
Adam Schenk.
Love it. I'll go Keith Mitchell.
Like it.
All right, Jeffrey, that will do it from us for another episode of The Drive. I'm Andy Lack. That is Jeffrey Fienberg. And we will see you back here next week for another signature event, the Wells Fargo.